All right, let's start with the electric investment then. 20 billion in capex increase, 50 billion in orders out. Where are you getting that capital from? Are you taking it away from other divisions?
Volkswagen is in...
The automotive world just got jolted. In a move no one saw coming, the CEO of Volkswagen has abruptly resigned. The announcement came without warning, and without the usual ceremonial language that accompanies executive departures. This wasn't a quiet handover or a planned transition. It was sudden, sharp, and to many, suspiciously timed. Because just days earlier, BYD, the rising electric vehicle giant from China, unveiled a new EV that stunned the industry. Faster charging, better range, lower cost. It wasn't just a product launch. It was a shot across the bow of every traditional automaker. The kind of moment that makes boardrooms go quiet. And now, when one of those boardrooms just lost its leader, insiders are already whispering about a connection. That the launch wasn't just disruptive, it was devastating. That Volkswagen, long considered a symbol of engineering dominance, simply wasn't ready for what BYD unleashed. The resignation, some say, isn't about corporate fatigue or personal reasons. It's about a company caught flat-footed in a race it thought it was leading. For an industry built on precision, planning, and control, this kind of chaos feels foreign. But disruption rarely sends an RSVP, and BYD, without theatrics or legacy baggage, is rewriting the tempo of the EV revolution. To understand the gravity of what's happening now, we have to look back at how Volkswagen became an empire in the first place, because only then can we grasp just how much there is to lose. Volkswagen's history of global power. For decades, Volkswagen was the auto world's undisputed heavyweight. Born from the ashes of war and rebuilt into a symbol of German precision, VW became more than a brand. It became a global force. With a sprawling portfolio that includes Audi, Porsche, Skoda, and Seat, the company didn't just play in multiple markets, it owned them. It led sales in Europe year after year. In China, its partnership with local manufacturers made it the go-to foreign automaker for a rapidly growing middle class. In South America, its affordable models dominated. Volkswagen's strength was not just in cars, but in scale. It had the factories, the distribution, the market presence. It was, for a time, untouchable. Even the diesel scandal, a crisis that would have buried lesser companies, only slowed it down. Volkswagen paid its fines, rebranded, and pressed ahead, announcing bold plans to electrify its fleet and lead the EV transition. But plans are one thing, execution is another. And somewhere along the way, the momentum began to shift. While VW was still drawing up timelines and wrestling with internal bureaucracy, younger, faster companies were already building the future. They didn't have legacy factories to retrofit or old paradigms to defend. They just had ambition and batteries. As BYD crept forward, VW didn't flinch at first. The German automaker believed its reputation, its heritage, and its brand loyalty would carry it through. But loyalty fades when technology lags. And now, as that gap widens, Volkswagen's past power only underscores the fragility of its present. Enter BYD, the quiet storm that's now shaking the walls of an empire. The rise of BYD, a silent storm, but BYD, didn't come into the spotlight with flash or noise. It didn't start with sleek marketing campaigns or global hype. It began with batteries. In 1995, it was just another Chinese company making rechargeable power cells for phones and electronics. But while others chased attention, BYD chased scale, science, and silence. Over time, the company moved into automotive manufacturing, not by copying, but by evolving. While legacy automakers were debating whether EVs were a passing trend, BYD was building them. It skipped the combustion era entirely and leaned fully into electric power. That focus is now paying off. In markets once dominated by giants like VW and Toyota, BYD has become the unexpected leader. Last year, it outsold Tesla in several key markets, including total global EV and plug-in hybrid sales. Its cars are not always the flashiest, but they're fast, efficient, reliable, and priced to compete. And its innovation pipeline, relentless. BYD builds its own batteries, designs its own chips, integrates hardware and software in ways even Tesla admires. It doesn't depend on slow-moving suppliers. It moves like a startup with the resources of a superpower behind it. As its products improve and its global reach expands, competitors are beginning to see BYD not as a scrappy outsider, but as a full-blown threat. And now, with its latest launch, BYD has proven it can not only match the best in the world, it can leap ahead. That leap didn't just make headlines. It may have triggered panic in Germany, because what BYD revealed wasn't just a car. It was a line in the sand, and a reminder that innovation waits for no one. BYD's earthquake launch. When BYD revealed its latest electric vehicle, the industry expected something impressive. But few were prepared for what came next. In just 5 minutes, the car could charge enough to cover hundreds of kilometers. That's not an incremental improvement. That's a tectonic shift. The key lies in its advanced blade battery, a proprietary design that's safer, faster, and longer lasting than anything on the current mainstream market. Paired with an ultra-high voltage architecture, this new EV platform doesn't just match the competition, it redefines the expectations. Tesla's superchargers suddenly look slower. Volkswagen's MEB platform feels outdated, and the timeline everyone thought they had to catch up, it just got compressed by years. Analysts watched the launch with awe and unease, because this wasn't just a technological achievement, it was a statement, a warning shot, fired with surgical precision. BYD wasn't interested in slowly catching up to the legacy automakers. It was interested in bypassing them, and consumers took notice. Overnight, forums lit up, industry blogs exploded, investors recalibrated. This was the kind of launch that forces boardrooms to ask hard questions, not about what comes next, but about whether they're already too late. Volkswagen, still struggling with its EV roadmap, had the most to lose. And inside its headquarters, the timing couldn't have been worse. Because while the world was focused on BYD's breakthrough, something else was unraveling behind the scenes. Behind closed doors, VW's growing panic. Inside Volkswagen's executive halls, the pressure had been mounting for months, maybe years. The numbers from China were no longer just concerning. They were alarming. Once VW's most profitable and dependable market, China was slipping away. And with every passing quarter, BYD was eating further into that market share. Tensions rose. Strategies were debated, delayed, discarded. Insiders say the mood turned defensive. Meetings ran longer, tempers shorter. The board was split. Some believed VW could compete with scale and heritage. Others knew the company needed radical reinvention, not tweaks. Then came BYD's 5-minute charging bombshell. What had been an abstract fear now had a name, a face, and a price tag. This wasn't competition, it was a threat to Volkswagen's relevance. If BYD could scale this new technology globally, VW's current EV roadmap wouldn't just look slow, it would look obsolete. The CEO, already under scrutiny for missed deadlines, buggy software launches, and a sluggish digital transformation, suddenly found himself with no more room to maneuver. There were whispers of lost investor confidence, rumors of leadership misalignment. The pressure finally snapped. His resignation wasn't just a personal exit, it was the eruption of a silent storm that had been building for years. It exposed just how deeply VW had underestimated the speed and scale of the disruption. Now, with leadership in flux and uncertainty rising, the world is asking, can Volkswagen still turn the wheel, or has it already missed the turn? Why the CEO walked away? For months, tension had been brewing inside Volkswagen's glass towers. While public-facing interviews painted a picture of transformation and resolve, the boardroom told another story. Sources close to the company described a growing rift between leadership and the executive board, driven by one increasingly uncomfortable truth. Volkswagen wasn't moving fast enough. The departing CEO had pushed to accelerate VW's EV program, but insiders say his efforts were often met with resistance or delay. Each ambitious plan was slowed by layers of legacy infrastructure, internal politics, and an organizational culture built for combustion engines, not code. And while VW wrestled with its own inertia, BYD was sprinting ahead. The final straw, many believe, was software, or rather the lack of it. Volkswagen's software division had faced multiple public setbacks, including delayed rollouts and system glitches in its ID. Series EVs, consumer confidence wavered. Reviews were mixed. The promise of a digital future kept slipping further into the distance. Then came BYD's launch. With a vehicle that charged in minutes and a seamless user experience, it exposed every one of VW's weak spots. The CEO reportedly demanded bold, rapid shifts in direction, more investment, more autonomy for EV divisions, even potential partnerships abroad. The board, wary of risk, balked. A line was crossed. What followed wasn't a graceful transition. It was an exit born out of frustration, disagreement, and an unspoken acknowledgement that VW was outpaced and possibly outmatched. Now, as interim leadership steps in, the world is watching not just what Volkswagen does next, but how fast it can do it. Because BYD isn't slowing down. BYD's unstoppable momentum. While VW stumbles through strategic infighting, BYD is moving like a company possessed. Last year alone, it delivered over 3 million electric vehicles worldwide, an achievement that not only surpassed Tesla in total EV volume, but firmly cemented its role as a global leader. Not just a regional success story, but it's not just about numbers. BYD's reach now spans continents. In Europe, it's rapidly expanding its presence with models tailored for urban and suburban buyers. In Latin America and Southeast Asia, BYD's electric buses, taxis, and even garbage trucks are becoming staples of city infrastructure. Governments love the cost savings. Consumers love the price to performance. Competitors are starting to fear the speed. Unlike legacy automakers, BYD controls its supply chain from the ground up. It mines its own lithium. It manufactures its own semiconductors. It builds its own batteries. That level of vertical integration allows BYD to move faster, adjust pricing, and maintain quality at scale, while rivals struggle with chip shortages and supplier delays. And the company's pace is only accelerating. New models are announced regularly. Production is expanding across Asia and Europe. R&D is focused on next-gen battery chemistry, autonomous driving, and AI-powered smart cabins. Every move seems intentional, less reactive, more surgical. BYD doesn't make noise for the sake of attention. It makes statements with its vehicles. And the statement it's sending now is loud and clear. It's not just competing with the best in the world. It's becoming the standard others must chase. That momentum is more than market share. It's a signal of a deeper shift, a shift powered by national policy, long-term vision, and a head start no one has been able to close. China's dominance in the EV race. What's happening now didn't happen by accident. China didn't stumble into EV dominance. It built the road and drove down it years before anyone else noticed. From the early 2010s, while European and American automakers were debating the future of electric vehicles, China was investing billions in its own. The government didn't just offer subsidies, it created an ecosystem. Massive investment in lithium mining, strategic partnerships in battery chemistry, national mandates on EV sales, aggressive build-outs of charging infrastructure across urban and rural regions. Every piece of the puzzle was placed with long-term intention. BYD rose within that ecosystem as its crown jewel. It benefited from policy support, but it also delivered results. While legacy automakers leaned on hybrids or delayed full electrification, BYD went all in. It learned, iterated, scaled, and optimized. And now it's reaping the rewards of a decade-long head start. Meanwhile, Western automakers are scrambling to catch up. They're investing heavily, but they're late. The charging networks are still uneven. Battery supply chains remain fragmented, and consumer incentives vary wildly by country, making coordinated EV rollouts challenging at best. China, by contrast, is now exporting EVs and EV technology at scale. Its automakers are moving into markets once dominated by German or Japanese brands, and not with subpar products, but with vehicles that meet or exceed global standards. Volkswagen, once the most powerful foreign brand in China, is now losing ground in what used to be its stronghold. And it's doing so while trying to compete on China's home turf, playing by China's rules. The balance of power in the auto industry is shifting, and it's becoming increasingly clear. Whoever controls the EV supply chain controls the future. VW's EV strategy, too little, too late. Volkswagen has been loudly promoting its EV roadmap. It's promised to launch 11 electric models in China by 2026. It's investing billions into charging infrastructure, digital platforms, and modular battery systems. On paper, the plan sounds impressive, but critics aren't convinced. Because for all the noise, the numbers tell a more sobering story. VW's EV sales continue to lag behind BYD and Tesla in key markets. Its software struggles are well documented, and consumers still complain about range anxiety, clunky interfaces, and sluggish charging times. Much of VW's current EV lineup still leans on combustion-era design logic. Cars built with the mindset of the past, dressed up in electric trim. Meanwhile, companies like BYD are designing EVs from the ground up, with no baggage and no compromise. What's worse, VW's platform delays have slowed down the launch of new models. While BYD rolls out updates and refinements at lightning speed, VW seems trapped in its own production. Cycles and the price points? Still too high for many of the markets they're hoping to win. Even the once reliable Chinese market has turned cold. Consumers there now associate innovation and performance with homegrown brands. Volkswagen's reputation as a tech laggard hasn't helped, and neither has its sluggish response to BYD's aggressive expansion. The strategy might have worked 5 years ago, but in 2025, it feels reactive, not revolutionary. The resignation of VW's CEO was a symptom of that deeper issue. Because even with bold declarations, Volkswagen still seems unsure whether it's building the future or chasing it. The hidden war, legacy versus disruptors. Beneath the headlines and executive reshuffles, a deeper war is being waged. A war between the old world and the new. Between the legacy automakers that built the 20th century and the disruptors now rewriting the 21st. It's not just about EVs, it's about culture, speed, and vision. Volkswagen, like many of its peers, is burdened by its past. Massive factories designed for combustion engines, layered management structures, outdated software pipelines, decades of branding tied to horsepower, luxury, and tradition. These aren't just assets, they're anchors. BYD, by contrast, was born in the digital era. It has no legacy to protect, no factories to retool, no marketing language to reinvent. It's nimble, vertically integrated, and deeply in tune with modern consumer values, sustainability, speed, and smart tech. And this isn't just VW's battle. Every legacy automaker, from Ford to Toyota, is watching the same trend unfold. The disruptors are leaner, faster, and hungrier. They're not trying to preserve the past. They're building something new from the ground up. The resignation of Volkswagen's CEO isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of a much larger shift, one that could reshape economies, industries, and global trade itself. Because in this war, it's not about who builds the best car, it's about who builds the future of mobility and who gets left behind. Consumer trends are shifting fast. Volkswagen's internal crisis and BYD's rise aren't just industry stories. They're deeply rooted in how consumer expectations have changed. For decades, car buyers were loyal to tradition. Prestige brands, polished ads, and legacy engineering carried tremendous weight. But a generational shift is now underway, and the automotive world is feeling the tremors. Younger consumers, millennials and Gen Z, don't care as much about badges on the hood. They care about the things that impact daily life: convenience, technology, and sustainability. A car isn't just a car anymore. It's a mobile device, a rolling software interface, and a statement about environmental values. And in that equation, many legacy automakers are coming up short. BYD, on the other hand, seems designed for this moment. Its vehicles are loaded with modern tech at an accessible price: fast charging, clean design, minimal maintenance, integrated software ecosystems. These aren't features, they're expectations. And BYD delivers them without the historical baggage of combustion engine compromises or overpriced prestige. Meanwhile, Volkswagen and its peers have struggled to shake off their old identity. Despite rebranding efforts and lofty EV promises, many of their electric models still feel like adaptations of older thinking. Clunky infotainment systems, inconsistent over-the-air updates, high sticker prices, and software bugs leave consumers questioning whether legacy brands can truly lead this new chapter. Worse, younger buyers are less forgiving. They're used to rapid iteration, flawless app experiences, and daily digital updates. If a car's interface feels outdated, or if the user experience isn't seamless, it's not just annoying, it's disqualifying. BYD's streamlined UX and fast-paced update cycles feel native to these buyers. VW's offerings feel like they're still catching up. And in emerging markets where price sensitivity is key, BYD is finding yet another advantage. Its vehicles are often thousands of dollars cheaper than Western alternatives, with no sacrifice in core functionality. That makes them not just competitive, but dominant. The old playbook is fading fast. German engineering isn't enough. Leather seats and brand equity won't win over a buyer who's comparing screen resolution, app integration, and charging times. The auto industry is no longer a battle of horsepower. It's a race to align with a generation that sees mobility through an entirely new lens. Volkswagen's leadership shakeup didn't happen in a vacuum. It was a direct response to these shifting currents, a painful acknowledgement that the consumer has changed faster than the company did. And BYD, sensing that shift early, is no longer adapting to the market. It's defining it. BYD's technological advantages. In the modern auto industry, hardware is only half the story. Software, integration, battery chemistry, and real-world performance are where the battle for supremacy is truly being fought. And in this domain, BYD is rewriting the rules, quietly, relentlessly, and with technical confidence that's sending chills through legacy automakers. At the heart of BYD's advantage is its revolutionary blade battery. While other companies continue to rely on traditional lithium-ion technology, BYD has pioneered a battery that's not only safer, but dramatically more efficient. It resists overheating and thermal runaway, extends the vehicle's lifespan, and reduces overall cost. Unlike most competitors, BYD doesn't just install these batteries, it builds them in-house, giving it complete control over quality, scalability, and pricing. That vertical integration is more than a supply chain convenience. It's a strategic superpower. BYD makes its own chips. It writes its own software. It manufactures key components other companies have to outsource. When supply chain crises hit the global market, BYD kept building. While others paused production waiting for semiconductors or raw materials, BYD quietly accelerated. And now it's not just keeping pace with the competition, it's pulling ahead. Its latest vehicles support ultra-fast charging, some reaching over 150 kilometers of range in just 5 minutes. Its energy efficiency per mile is among the best in the world, and its vehicles are increasingly equipped with intelligent driving features. Lane assistance, self-parking, and adaptive systems that learn driver habits over time. Critically, BYD's innovation doesn't exist in a vacuum. The company works in tight coordination with China's aggressive national goals for EV adoption and smart city integration. That synergy has created an innovation loop. The government lays the foundation, BYD builds atop it, and consumers respond with explosive demand. Volkswagen, by contrast, is still navigating internal bureaucracy just to get EV software stable, while BYD is optimizing user interfaces to feel like smartphones on wheels. VW is still rolling out updates to fix glitchy touchscreens and charging bugs. That technical lag is no longer just an inconvenience, it's a reputational liability. And with each product cycle, BYD's edge grows sharper. Its vehicles are simpler to build, easier to scale, and more affordable to maintain. This is not just technological parity, it's technological pressure, a constant reminder to the rest of the world that the innovation curve is accelerating, and falling behind is no longer measured in quarters. It's measured in relevance. Volkswagen has engineering heritage, but BYD has momentum, mastery, and modernity on its side. The global economic shakeup, Volkswagen isn't just a company. It's a pillar of the German economy, a source of national pride, and a core contributor to Europe's industrial backbone. So when its leadership falters, the ripple effects go far beyond automotive headlines. They begin to shake the confidence of markets, workers, and policymakers alike. Germany's economic engine has long relied on its auto sector, not just for jobs, but for exports, innovation, and geopolitical leverage. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, these brands aren't just manufacturers, they're ambassadors of German influence. A faltering VW doesn't just threaten market share, it threatens the delicate economic balance of the EU itself. BYD's rise and VW's stumble has European governments increasingly concerned. Already, discussions have begun around tariffs, subsidies, and trade policies designed to slow the influx of Chinese EVs. Officials argue it's about leveling the playing field, but the truth is more urgent. Europe fears it may be losing control of its most important industry. A price war now looms. BYD is entering markets with vehicles that undercut European brands by thousands of euros, and they're not cheaply made. They meet or exceed safety and tech standards. This kind of disruption is nearly impossible for legacy automakers to match without slashing profits or undergoing major restructuring. That restructuring may be inevitable. As BYD expands, Western brands may be forced to spin off divisions, close factories, or shift R&D into entirely new territories. There's even talk of collaboration, something that would have sounded unthinkable just a few years ago. But pride doesn't pay the bills. And in a world where affordability, performance, and supply chain resilience drive consumer choice, ideology gives way to survival. For consumers, this shakeup could be a windfall. More competition means lower prices, faster innovation, and better vehicles. But for Europe's aging auto giants, it's an existential threat. And as the dust settles, the question isn't just whether Volkswagen can recover, it's whether it can still define what a car is in the 21st century. What's next for Volkswagen? With the CEO gone and its dominance in question, Volkswagen faces a critical inflection point. What happens next may decide whether the company reclaims its place in the global hierarchy or fades into a cautionary tale of industrial complacency. Interim leadership has promised to accelerate transformation, but promises won't be enough this time. The board is under immense pressure to move from defensive maneuvers to bold action. That could mean divesting from underperforming divisions, overhauling its digital platforms, or even seeking partnerships with Chinese firms like XPeng, NIO, or perhaps, ironically, BYD. Inside the company, morale is shaky. Teams once inspired by heritage and scale are now looking to Silicon Valley and Shenzhen for cues. Younger engineers are leaving for startups. Investors are asking sharper questions, and longtime customers are considering new options that better reflect their evolving values. Volkswagen's strength lies in its capacity for reinvention, but time is short. Analysts suggest that if VW doesn't have a truly competitive EV platform ready for mass adoption by 2026, it may lose an entire generation of buyers. And if it can't solve its software bottlenecks, those buyers won't come back. The roadmap ahead will require risk, the kind of moves that upset stakeholders but excite customers, the kind that admit what's broken and fix it without ego. Because the age of legacy is over, the age of agility has begun. Volkswagen is not doomed, but its window is closing. The bigger picture, a new automotive world order. The resignation of Volkswagen's CEO wasn't a footnote. It was a signal flare, a warning that the foundations of the automotive world are shifting, faster and more dramatically than most were willing to admit. For over a century, carmakers like VW shaped the rhythms of industrial progress. But now they're reacting to it. BYD's ascent marks more than just corporate success. It's the arrival of a new automotive order, one not built in Detroit or Stuttgart, but in Shenzhen. A world where vehicles are born in software labs, not steel foundries, where agility beats heritage, where a company with no roots in the combustion age is defining what comes next. And what comes next won't be measured in horsepower or luxury branding. It will be measured in connectivity, sustainability, cost per mile, and user experience. In this world, the giants of the past must either evolve or be eclipsed. Volkswagen has history. BYD has the future. The question now isn't whether this disruption will continue. It's who can survive it. Which companies are ready to rewrite their own DNA? Which leaders will embrace the discomfort of reinvention? And which brands will fall, not because they lacked vision, but because they moved too slow? The electric age isn't coming. It's here, and the world is watching to see who truly leads it.